law changed. They cannot be inside the 100-foot circle. They cannot be inside the space except to vote unless they're approved by the clerk. Why would the clerk approve them? Because, what's your name, sir?
Steve.
Steve is a pain in the butt, man. He is just giving me the worst time. He threatened me. He just pushed me. Assistant clerk, call the police. Now I invite, when he shows up at the door, I invite him in as a clerk to deal with you. Firemen, paramedics. I have a heart attack as the clerk. I'm on the floor. I better be a very good leader, and the rest of my team better like me. Because the law says, if I am not capable, then they must vote to let them in. by majority opinion. That's just a little side. That's one of those little quirks in the law. I've always found it funny. Okay? Once a voter completes voting and departs, the law says you can't come back. Okay? Now, frankly, if you've left your keys in the space, you know, come on in, where do you think you left them, right? But if you've stepped outside and your son's still in the space, well, I've just come in because my son's still voting. I'm sorry, you can't do that. Well, I need help. No, you can't help. Sorry, you're out. You've done it. Law says you must stay outside now.
What if I assisted somebody who had a bum leg, and then a half an hour later I assist somebody else? Can I come in?
Different scenario. We'll talk about it.
Oh.
All right. There is a potential for that. No photography. No cell phone conversations. This gets a little stickety for the voting staff. Law says you can't take photography. Well, almost every single cell phone we have today can take a picture or a video. You've got to watch for that. They have to watch for that. They cannot be talking on the phone. They can't be at the two reasons. One, it disrupts the polling place. Two, well, three reasons, I guess. They're talking on the phone, maybe talking about the election, and now they're influencing somebody else in the polling place. And then, thirdly, they may be a union agent. They may be an employer. That's illegal. So there's no conversations. However, the law allows them to bring in whatever paraphernalia that they need in order to mark their ballot. If they need brochures, if they need campaign material, if they need several ballots, they may have them and have them at the booth. Well, in today's world, what do a lot of people do with a cell phone?
Text.
And what else do they do?
Or email, or they have the information on their phones.
They have the information on their phone. So now, legally, because they can use any other kind of information, they can legally use that information. You have to just, this is where it gets kind of antsy for the staff. Okay? They have to be able to, without looking at the ballot, making sure what they're doing. They may even have to say, excuse me, sir, may I ask you what you're using your phone for? He says, my information's here. Oh, you're my guest. Okay? So this is one of these little tough areas for the staff.
What if they tell you that, but they're lying? How do you,
Yep.
without seeing it, they could just say that.
Because we're all honest citizens.
That's what we assume.
Well, as long as they're using it and not talking out
Unless-
loud
unless you
disturbing,
can-
wouldn't they, you would,
What could they be doing?
what else could they be doing with it unless they're talking?
Texting somebody or.
But
Yeah,
texting-
they can't be using the phone for the three reasons, essentially three reasons I gave you. Because it disturbs the other voters,
Right.
okay? Conversation could be influencing another voter if he's talking to someone else about the election. And that conversation with somebody else about the election might be illegal because he may be talking to his employer, so you either vote this way or you don't come back to work. Okay, so that intimidation factor. So, no use.
So if they're just looking at their phone,
Without
there's
talking.
nothing, no problem with
We're not
that.
worried about that. just worried about them influencing somebody else that could overhear them.
Okay? You don't make an issue of it. If you think they're really doing something funny, clerk, he's talking, he shouldn't be. That's what you do. And then the clerk would take care of it, hopefully. Okay?
Sure.
The no solicitation zone. 100-foot perimeter around the building, early voting site.
Around the building?
It's like this place here, this is an early voting site, 100 feet all the way around this library. We go out into the street, we go out into the woods, and it will be marked. They'll come out with spray chalk and they'll mark that 100 feet. Nothing can happen inside that 100 feet that can influence a voter. Nothing. Okay? If you see it, see the clerk. All right? 100-foot radius from the polling entrance if you're going to a precinct.
Election day.
Here's the entrance, middle of the door. It would go 100 foot out. Early voting site, all the way around.
Wow.
Okay? No solicitation for votes, for assistance, for contributions, for opinions, for petitions, for sale items, believe it or not, for giveaways, believe it or not. It may be 150 degrees out there. Guy wants to come in and help his fellow citizen with cold water. Sorry, can't do that, pal. I appreciate your interest in taking care of your fellow citizen, but it's illegal. And campaign signs they can bring in, the voter can bring in paraphernalia, carry it with them. They cannot bring in campaign signs. If they happen to be campaigning outside the 100-foot area, they come in to vote, they have to leave their signs outside the 100-foot area. Okay?
What constitutes a sign? Because last time at Bloomingdale, they had this size in the line.
That's okay. That's all right.
Okay, this size.
Sign is the things that are,
Okay,
see, that is just, that's campaign paraphernalia.
even if it's a sign.
That's all right.
Okay.
And the voter is allowed to do that. Now, the voter is allowed to do that, but a campaign supporter is not.
Right.
He can be a campaign supporter out there waving this stuff. He steps in to be the voter, he can still carry it with him, as long as he does not use it inside the 100 feet to campaign with. He can bring it into the voting place. He can bring it to the booth. He cannot leave it in the booth. We will pick it up if he does. Okay.
The voters can't politic with that information though, right?
Okay. It's okay to conduct exit polling. Okay? Normally by the media, sometimes by a party, sometimes by issue reps, and that is usually done at the exit. Usually done at the exit. Doesn't have to be done at the exit. Wherever it is most effective for the clerk, because the clerk wants to be able to ensure that she is in control of that activity. So if it's around the corner and nobody can see that exit polling going on, as a clerk, you're not going to do it that way. You're not going to do it there. I'm sorry. You're going to do it right up there where I can see you, or my deputy can see what's going on.
Even though they're discussing in front of the other voters?
Legal, under the law. Okay? Once they're done with the exit, they leave, nobody can talk to them again. Outside the 100 foot, fair game. This 100 foot is interesting. There can be no discussion by you as a campaigner with Jeannie as the voter inside the 100 foot. At 100 feet, 1 inch, you can yell, scream, dance, wave, whatever you would like. Jeannie hears all of that, and she comes to me as the voter and says, I want that stopped. Well, where was that person? Right out there, 100 feet, sorry. Now, you may break some other civil laws, disturbing the peace, or what have you. Somebody might get you for that, but not election law. Okay?
Question on the exit polling. The person doing the exit polling, they're restricted or limited on like the specific questions they can ask the voter as they're leaving?
Relative to what they did in the polling site.
Not necessarily who they voted for?
Yes, they can ask that specific question also. That is what exit polling is. Okay? Okay, basic functions and related forms. The opening. early voting, they must produce a zero report. That is a tape with all the races on it with zeros next to it. They must compare that tape with a sample ballot, make sure all the races match, and that every one of those races has a zero next to it. They will verify the OSX daily total is 0. I'll show it to you later, but in the lower right-hand corner of the OSX screen will be a number. First day on early voting, it must say 0. If it doesn't say 0, they do not verify the zero report tape. Talk to the clerk about it, and then write it down. Record check, record and check all seals, and begin the OSX log. We'll talk about the OSX log a little bit in the future. It's not a big thing, although it will be useful to you. Then they will turn on all their machinery, they will distribute all supplies as required, and they will complete all administrative actions. Now, I put these in order, okay, but in reality, if the team is any good, and they've been working together for an election or two, this is all going to happen simultaneously. And it may kind of look like controlled or uncontrolled chaos even, but it's all of this stuff is what you're going to see. For precinct voting, they're going to set up the polling room. And early voting, the polling room is set up in advance, as much as a week in advance, not later than 3 days in advance. Precinct, not necessarily. They're given their equipment, it's dropped off at the polling site, and then they show up at 6 o'clock, 5:45 in the morning, all like a bunch of little busy ants, and they build this thing. Now that's real chaos. Okay? And you watch that one and you'll say, how the devil do we get through this? Okay? If they have time, if the arrangements with the site owner work out, they will try and get in advance to set up their site. Obviously, it makes it much easier if it's set up in advance. Big thing. They must conduct the ballot count. In a precinct, they get ballots, specific ballots for their precinct. There's stacks of them, and I think there are 25 in a stack, right? 25 in a stack. Okay, depending on the size of the precinct, they may have 2,000 ballots. They may have 2,500 ballots. They may get a lot of ballots. They must count them. They must, before they open the poll, they must record and double count them. Clerk counts them, somebody else counts them. Make sure that they have what their inventory says they're supposed to have. That's important because it becomes part of their closing procedure. And then follow-on procedure is essentially everything else that occurs over here, except the OSX log. They don't use an OSX log.